Support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. All right, folks, a few weeks ago, Kanye West attended New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Atlanta, pastored by Reverend Jamal Bryant. He took his Sunday service there. It was a packed place. Reverend Jamal Bryant said more than 100 folks actually committed their life to Christ. Just so many millennials who were there. And a lot of people who criticized Reverend Bryant for having Kanye West there leading his service in the pulpit. But Reverend Bryant said, look, his job is to reach people who would not ordinarily be reached by normal means. Well, last weekend, Kanye West held his Sunday service on a Saturday in Salt Lake City, Utah. During that Sunday service, he actually made some comments where he talked about why he was voting for Donald Trump, talked about Republicans were the ones who freed the slaves, and he talked about, again, that support. Well, that unleashed lots of criticism. And last night, Reverend Bryant took the Periscope to share his thoughts on this and also made an announcement regarding a big donation Kanye West gave to his Atlanta church.
To say that you unashamedly support Donald Trump when he called the mother continent of Africa a collection of S-hole nations, smacking the entire diaspora in the year of the anniversary of the year of the return. This same Donald Trump, who in fact brought in all of the presidents of United Negro College Fund, HBCUs, and promised them that he would give funding, and hadn't given a dime. And still, he says he supports them. I don't align with the statements of Kanye West. I don't endorse it, nor do I subscribe to it. And I am not a runaway slave. To that end, Mr. West made a significant donation to New Birth Cathedral. But I do not want to be guilty of double speech. So I met with my team today, and the donation that he made to our church, I am now redirecting. And I'm going to be giving that donation he gave to Morris Brown College. I'm giving it to Morris Brown College because Kanye West's mother was a professor there, Dr. Donda West. Morris Brown College is one of the oldest black colleges in the state of Georgia. But with the money, Kanye, that you gave to me, I'm going to redirect that and open up a scholarship in your mother's name in the English department, so that an entire new generation will be able to read, comprehend, write essays, directions, letters, and hopefully policies that will reverse what Donald Trump is endeavoring to do.
Greg Carr, I want to go to you first. There are a lot of people who, again, criticize Reverend Jamal Bryant for having Kanye at his church. I dare say I disagree with those people. The reason I say that is that you look at the Sunday service, look at those previous Sunday services, Kanye West, it was music driven. It wasn't about politics. But what he did in Utah is what changed the game. And it caused people to say, oh, is Kanye using Sunday service as a rally, if you will, for Donald Trump? To me, it makes perfect sense what Pastor Jamal Bryant did by saying, giving that money away, not going to the church. He certainly was bothered by what Kanye had to say, and frankly, to me, made the right move. Your thoughts?
I agree. I mean, I think, Dr. West, Dr. Donda West, who not only taught at Morris Brown College, taught at Chicago State University, spent a great deal of her life, that's right, and career at HBCUs and with black students. I think it's a wonderful and fitting tribute, particularly, and we know Morris Brown needs the money. As it relates to whatever Kanye is or isn't doing in the church, my dear brother, I don't really have a dog in that fight. I don't believe that we should be listening to celebrities for anything politically. If they haven't distinguished themselves, unless it's Paul Robeson or Nina Simone, I don't really see the need to try to parse through anything Kanye West says. And if he wants to go in the church, the doors of the church are open. I would agree with Jamal Bryant or Michael Eric Dyson or anybody else that says whosoever is, let them come. The only other thing I would say is this. The important thing for me, what we just saw on Periscope, is that Jamal Bryant said, I met with my people, with my directors, with my board. No individual should be making decisions for institutions. And we got to get away from this celebrity culture where we listen to one person as if they speak for everybody. And I'm sure that board said what ended up being the decision that Jamal Bryant did not take on his own. So altogether, I think it's about the best you can do.
Avis, the reality is when you look at the Sunday service, when you look at what Kanye West is doing, again, some people said, is he being for real? Is he being serious? He apparently is putting out a gospel album. But I think what really jumps out here is the fact that here he had an event that was supposed to be a religious service. And all of a sudden, he turns it into a rally for Donald Trump. Yes, Donald Trump did win Utah. Yes, he might be talking about Jesus in Utah. We know that there are Mormons. But it is an issue of accountability, I believe, when it comes to the black church, when you recognize what somebody's doing. And I think in this case, this was a smart move. Your thoughts on this whole issue?
Well, I'm certainly glad that the donation is being made to an HBCU, and specifically in memory of Kanye's mother. I personally believe that he still is struggling after losing her. Now, as to his antics in Utah, I just find it interesting that if he feels so strongly about it, why did he wait until Utah to go into this pro-Trump screed? He was just in Atlanta. He didn't have the nerve to say that in front of a church full of black folk. I'm just wondering why he waited until he was at Utah to say this. And so, I'm one of those people that's a little bit more skeptical about his transformation. I really believe this is a marketing scheme for his next album. And I think that he will morph to best be able to relate to whatever crowd he's in front of at the moment. And so that's why when he was at the black church, he said nothing about Donald Trump. He's going to sit there and try to get everybody all hyped with his music, which is good, but I'm going to tell you, I can find music that beautiful in any church, in any black community around this nation, so I'm not particularly impressed by it. But when he was in Utah, he did what one would expect him to do in front of thousands or how many hundreds of white folks that was there. He capitulated to what he thought their desires were. And at the end of the day, I think he's looking to maximize his bottom line once his album comes out.
Let me show there is the reality. There is a reality that that celebrities are able to reach a different audience than traditional church leaders. I remember watching that video. First of all, that was a time when New Birth Missionary Baptist Church had 20,000 plus members. Where every seat in that facility, which seats 10,000, would be filled. I remember being there in 2000, where a long call for a men's meeting it was a Sunday. 2 days later, 4,000 black men were at that church. Obviously, when he got hit with sexual assault charges of being involved with men in that church, it just plummeted, and then their membership went down to under 1,000. And so that church was jam-packed when Kanye was there. In that video by Bryant, he said that some 500 millennials were in line at 6 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. and the church didn't start till 9:30. But what you'll see here is that's one side. Now the flip side is what then happens when you have a Kanye who all of a sudden somewhere else begins to turn it into a Trump rally, and that is what changes this whole deal. And so clearly, Bryant realized they needed to address this issue.
Absolutely. I feel like at the end of the day, the recognition has to be here. People came to that church for Kanye. They didn't come to that church for Jesus. And moving beyond that, I think that the timing is also very interesting because, as you know, a week ago in D.C., there was the huge Blexit rally and all of those, and you had a ton of millennials, particularly the outreach to black would-be Republicans. And I think that, to be honest, there has probably been a conversation between Trump and Kanye. He's elevated Kim Kardashian in the criminal justice space and everything. There's probably been a conversation between him and Kanye about what Kanye can do for him. And I think that at this point, it is the Trump campaign wants to get more black support. They've offered to pay different rappers, athletes, and others to come out and basically tout the campaign initiatives for them. And I think that Kanye is somebody who he sees as a friend, somebody who is well known, somebody who has respect in the black community, someone who he thinks can really help carry the mantle for him. And I think that he was using his Sunday service as that. I agree with Avis that at the end of the day, he wasn't going to do this in a black church in Atlanta. That's just not the audience. But I do think that he is going to continue popping up along the campaign trail, not necessarily at campaign events, but utilizing this newfound audience in terms of the church-going group that he's trying to get going to help him to pass along that message. And to be frank, this isn't the first time we've seen a rapper or a hip-hop star or a black artist go from being that black artist to going into the churches. We saw it with Mace. We've seen it with several people from the 90s as well. We saw it with MC Hammer. At the end of the day, it usually happens when your record sales are tanking. In his case, we're seeing it in a sort of a different sense. But I do think that there is something to be said about him linking this alongside his church-going audience or his newfound church-going audience.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, that's my frat, Gerald Albright there. We're going to be in Cabo November 7th through the 11th for the second annual Life Luxe Jazz Experience. It's an unbelievable lineup of folks there, 14 different acts, including Gerald Albright, Alex Bunyan, Raul Madan, Shalea, Roy Ayers, Ernest Quarles, Johnny McClurkin. It's going to be an unbelievable gathering there. Of course, if you want to be able to go to lifeluxejazz.com, LIFELUXEJAZZ.com. But if you can't make it there, you can still get your live stream pass, courtesy of GFNTV.com. That's GFNTV.com. Live stream pass, $10.99. You'll get access to all 3 days, 14 different acts performing at the Life Luxe Jazz Festival. And again, the website you want to go to is gfntv.com. Would love for you to check it out. I'll be broadcasting Roland Martin Unfiltered from there on Thursday and Friday. And again, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you can check out all of the fantastic concerts there at the second annual Life Luxe Jazz Experience, LIFELUXEJAZZ.com. And of course, to get the live stream pass, gfntv.com. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. Yeah, that's actually a video that came from Ava DuVernay's Instagram stories. I would have shot some video, but let me tell you something. Tyler told everybody on Saturday, you could only take pictures on the red carpet. You couldn't take pictures anywhere else. And that's why on the inside, folks didn't take photos. So when we got on the trolley on Sunday, didn't nobody know what the hell the rules were. So we like, well, we ain't taking the damn thing. So, you know. But
Right,
it was,
right.
Owning your content.
like, nobody was, I'm like, everybody on the bus was like, I ain't shooting the damn thing.
want to,
Because
but
I ain't trying to get escorted off.
That's right.
Because they were real clear. And so you figure like if Oprah or Ava shot something, you know, they might get a pass. Everybody else like, we ain't getting no damn pass. So that's what happened there. There are many other photos, of course, they're releasing. But it's so the houses you saw there, if you see the show, The Haves and the Have-Nots, and another one of the shows. So when you see those homes, normally when you watch a movie, they have the outside of a house, but it's really just the external shots. And then normally the inside is actually shot on a set somewhere. Or actually what they did is those were actual homes built to code in Atlanta. Those are actual homes, bedrooms. They're actual homes, and so that's a neighborhood. And then also on the property, they had that's also part of the National Register, so they could not destroy a number of the other homes that are on this property.
From a military base.
Right. It was a Confederate Army base, and then became a military base. Then it got decommissioned, and so they could not tear down these older homes. But they were able to go in and completely gut the inside. And so I was talking to Terrell Whitley, my frat brother, CEO of Liquid Soul, and Oprah stayed at one of the homes on the property. And so when Pastor Shirley Caesar, when she spoke at the Gospel Brunch on Sunday, she said, this ain't a movie studio. She said, this is Tyler Perry City. She's like, this is a city.
Right,
and actually, and when you go, just like when I went to Fort Knox, I mean, Fort Knox is actually Fort Knox. It's not like there's a city Fort Knox. It's the fort. And so it's the same thing. You go in this place and they've got store, they got a grocery store, they got a beauty salon, they got homes. Tyler announced he's going to build a compound on that acreage for LGBTQ teens who've been run out of their homes and women who've been involved in sex trafficking, and create a place for them to be able to get their lives back on the property. So I mean, it's just an amazing.
How big is the property?
More than 300
land
acres.
Mass.
More than 300 acres. So it's larger.
Wow, okay.
It's larger than the Disney, 20th Century Fox, and I think Paramount. Larger than their lots combined. So if you go to Los Angeles and you go to the Paramount lot, you see this big sound stages and everything. But look, LA landlocked. But bottom line is, but you could take those studios and put them on this land and still have 60 acres left.
Wow. You know, I was listening to some interviews that he did, one with Gayle King on CBS, but also in some print media, where he talked about how for years and even now, Hollywood ignores him. And so I'm paraphrasing now, he said, Hollywood ignores me. So when you get ignored, you build your own, if you will.
Yes.
And this testament, this build out, this opening was just a real testament to what he's built and will continue to build, doing good in the community, yes, but also it's kind of his thumb in his nose at Hollywood, saying, I can build my own. And there are a lot of lessons in that.
Well,
Welcome to my table.
I would say a thumb, but I would also say you can call it an FU, but you can also call it.
I was trying to clean it up.
No, but you also say that I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time begging you.
Right.
And I keep telling people this story. People keep talking about his TV shows and TBS deal. Everybody forgets. Tyler Perry had a development deal with ABC. He was shooting a pilot for ABC. They sent notes back saying, hey, we really think that you're using Jesus a little too much. So could you just take all those extra Jesuses out of the show? And Tyler was like, okay, I'm just going to leave.
Right.
He literally walked away. Now, you're told, are you crazy? You had a development deal with ABC? And he was like, yeah. But I wasn't going to let somebody sit here and tell me.
Yeah, because you spend all your time arguing instead of creating your own thing and controlling your own content.
Well, because of Issa Rae, when she had a development deal initially, I think it was with ABC. What happened there was there were so many notes being given. And she's like, okay, that her original vision completely was gone. And guess what? Show never got picked up.
Right.
Yeah.
So she said she went, when I interviewed her, and folks, y'all go to our YouTube channel, you can watch this interview. And she went back and she regrouped and she's like, you know what? I'm not doing that again.
Right.
And so when she did Insecure, her deal was she was more secure, saying, no, this is my vision. This is what I'm going to do.
Right.
And the show becomes successful because she adhered to the original vision. And I think what's important, to your point about if they are not going to say, come to our table. I mean, I tell people straight up, when News One Now got canceled, and when I said I'm going to do this here, when we did the State of Our Union. So what happened was we get canceled December 2017. Trump gives his State of the Union address in January. Frederica Wilson announced she wasn't going to attend. Maxine Waters announced she wasn't going to attend. And I'm like, no, we got to do something. We got to do something. And so what I decided was, I said, I'm going to launch this show. I was in makeup, and an hour from going live at Shiloh, my phone rings, and it's Tyler Perry. And Tyler Perry calls, and he said, man, I'm watching you on YouTube, bruh. You are the absolute truth. He said, please, man, you're our voice who's speaking truth in this way. He said, please tell me you're planning something. And I said, as a matter of fact, I am. Now, mind you, Tyler Perry didn't have my number. I ain't have his number. I was sitting here, we would see each other on the red carpet. We never even had a conversation longer than 5 minutes. And then I told him, he said, and I love it that it's independent. Right. And so even now, so when people come up to me and they say, man, why don't I see you on MSNBC or CNN or Fox? I say, guys, look.
It's all about content control, narrative control.
I have to wait for them to call me.
And they
so I said, like there was a point in 2017, in 2015, MSNBC was calling me constantly for Morning Joe. And all of a sudden, call stopped.
Right.
Trump gets elected. All the shows are blowing me up for 4 months, 4 and 5 times a week. And all of a sudden, call stop. And then it's been intermittent since then. Like I might get a call, it might be 2 months, it might be 1 month, it might be 3-4 months. And so why am I gonna sit there and it's like, man, I got all this stuff to say, we can do this here, but I'm waiting on them. I'm waiting on them to give. Look, I got the TV One show because I was sitting in John Klein's office at CNN, and they had promised me a show. And then after I filled in for Campbell Brown in 2009, they said, we're not going to launch a show. And they claimed it was about advertising. Well, I know that was BS because Southwest Airlines, the guy who was over, Tom Callagher, over their budget, hey, I already said, we're going to be your primary sponsor. I brought the advertiser to the table. So the point there for people need to understand, we could have easily sat there and just waited for them, like, well, hopefully they'll come around. No, we're going to build this, and then we're going to keep building it. We're going to keep building it, and that's what you have to do. And I think for a lot of people, they're looking for, let me be real clear.
Validation.
White validation. I got to say that. A lot of people are looking for white validation. They're looking for validation from these other networks. And I told y'all the other day, and I sent the commentary to Tyler, and he loved it. Black people. Tyler Perry's commitment to black people and the black consumer built that studio. Those were black. He didn't worry about crossing over. They said, no. Medea is for this audience. Now, the rest of y'all like it too, that's fine. And that, it shows the power of the black consumer. And I just hope black people, the reason I keep showing y'all these photos and these videos, I need black people to see that it was not a black, creative, talented businessman who built the studio. It was the dollars he earned from black people that built the studio.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
And that's the thing.
And he remained committed to his black audience on top of all of that. So he didn't walk away. He didn't take the money and walk away. He took the money and reinvested in them and continued to put out product and content.
Instead of being a small fish in a big pond, he created the pond. And
He said, I'm going to build my own pond.
And he can do the own.
Got to believe in yourself to do that.
It's about the content and the control of the narrative and the control of the content and the ownership.
That's it. No,
if you don't have that, you are always on somebody else's playing field, no matter what.
That's it. All right, folks, over the weekend, I had the honor of being one of the VIP guests at the grand opening of Tyler Perry's new studios in Atlanta this weekend. It was unbelievable. We should have some photos, I think, of the event. It was unbelievable. It took place on a Saturday and Sunday. I was not there Saturday for this. I was not there because I was speaking at the Baltimore Civil Rights Gala there. But he dedicated the various sound stages that he is named after prominent African Americans. You see Diane Carroll, Whoopi Goldberg, Spike Lee, Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier, Oprah Winfrey, Harry Belafonte, Denzel Washington. I know I'm missing somebody. It was an unbelievable experience. My wife was there. She enjoyed it on Saturday. You see Spike Lee right there. This location is on it was a former Confederate Army base. Then, of course, it later transitioned to a U.S. Army base. And, of course, Tyler Perry took it over. It is an unbelievable place where they've already shot. First of all, it's been open for 5 years, okay? But it just had the grand opening. And they've had all kinds of different movies there, and not just his productions. And, in fact, this studio lot is actually bigger than the Disney lot, the Fox lot combined. And there's still 60 more acres. And so these are all the various photos. Now, the reason you didn't see a lot of photos on social media, because Tyler's people said, you can't take photos. And I was here yesterday. This is from the church service that took place yesterday. Unbelievable, folks. Of course, you have Vanessa Bell Armstrong, Shirley Caesar. You had Smokey Norfolk, the Clark sisters, Yolanda Adams, all of them were singing. You see Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, they were there as well. That's the great Cicely Tyson. Had a chance to get a photo and talk with her as well. It was just unbelievable. And so let me say this. This is critically important. That those of you who see those photos and you say, oh, that's great for Tyler Perry. But the reality is this here. Black people built that studio. I had Tyler Perry speak at the National Association of Black Journalists last year, and we were texting in March when I invited him, and I said, this is what I want you to do. I want you to come talk to our membership about how you respect your audience and how your audience will respect you. Tyler Perry has never crossed over. That studio was built by black folks. Black folks went to see Tyler Perry's plays. I don't give a damn if you don't like Tyler Perry's Medea plays. I don't care if you don't like his movies. The reality is that black consumers, that's how he was able to do what he's been able to do. Television shows, the movies, the stage plays. He is targeting a black audience. And he said this at the BET Awards. He said that when people were talking about Oscars so white, he said, I'm not interested in sitting at their table. He said, y'all can go do that. I'm going build my own table. He put that on Facebook and Twitter as well in his Instagram page when he said he just celebrated his own table. Why am I saying that? It's because there are a whole bunch of us who love to talk about crossing over. People said after TV One ended my show, man, you're going to go to MSNBC? Go back to CNN? No. Why? Because I'm going to create my own show and build my own show and then turn that and build my own network. Yeah, man, but didn't you hear? No. Because see, here's what we have to understand. He now controls his destiny. He's employing his own people. He's also providing opportunities. In Bishop Jake's sermon yesterday, he talked about how when you create a platform, you're actually creating a pathway for others to be able to live their dreams. When I think about the black folks who you now see on cable television, who came through Washington Watch on TV One, who came through News One Now on TV One, I can take this thing back further. The black folks who I put on blackamericaweb.com when I ran it, that was all using the platform to be able to elevate other folks. And that's what Tyler Perry has been able to do. This is the power of black economics, which means that we have to learn to fully respect our dollar. And for too many of us, we don't do that. Now, I said our dollar. Not that person's $1,000, not that person's a million. Because see, here's what happens. We often will say, well, if the well-off black folks would do this. First of all, they are. They are. Yes, Robert Smith, the billionaire, paid the debt off of the Morehouse class. And it's probably going to number some $40 million. There's a people who would say, well, Oprah should do the same, not realizing that Oprah put more than 200 brothers through Morehouse College. Paid for the full education. She didn't do one grand gesture saying, I'm going to pay off this whole class of student loan. She put essentially a whole class of brothers through Morehouse, pay all the expenses. We have to recognize that every dollar matters. When you think about HBCUs, started by freed slaves who took pennies and nickels and gave for those schools. That's the equivalent of $1 and $5 and $10 today. So the real issue that you have to ask yourself is, what are you willing to do? And Black Panther made $248 million his first weekend. I put this on Instagram. I said, imagine if every black person who went to see Black Panther would give the equivalent of 2 movie tickets to their favorite HBCU. Y'all, it's right there on my Instagram page. People, man, what you talking about? That can't change nothing. What $20 gonna do? I said, the same $20 from you, and you is how Black Panther made $248 million.
Hello.
Everybody didn't go out and rent a studio and say, come watch it for free. Collective dollars creates economic opportunities. And so as you watch these photos, as you see the videos that are gonna come out of this amazing experience, you're probably gonna be saying, wow, Tyler Perry spent millions of dollars. Do understand, that's a $250 million studio that he built. Not from a white investor. He didn't partner with Disney or Fox or any of those networks. He built. There was a video that was also shown when they were creating that. At the center of that studio, they cut a hole in the center, and he placed a Bible in that hole. And then they covered it up. Because this is a black man who lived in his car, who was homeless in New Orleans, who, when he did his first play, nobody showed up. But he didn't give up. So I'm saying all of that because when we sit back and criticize, oh, his movie isn't this, and it isn't that, do understand what they also did? He created his own Hollywood Walk of Fame for the black people who he gave a shot. That he gave a shot. He said it. Taraji Henson now gets her full fee because he was the first one who did it. No one. Idris Elba first played a gangster. Every movie role he got was a gangster, but it wasn't until he played a daddy in Tyler Perry's movie that he started getting different roles. I'm saying all of that because as black folks, we have got to stop playing this silly game of trying to have white validation.
Hello.
I got no disrespect if you are white or Asian, Latino, and then you appreciate what somebody does. But what I'm trying to say is, when you believe that your stuff is less than. I'm gonna close with this. I was on a panel in Cincinnati a couple of months ago, and the brother who was sitting next to me thought that he was speaking for me when he said, you know, this is what he said, y'all. We gotta support Roland show, Roland Martin Unfiltered. He then said, the quality may not be as good as CNN's. I said, stop. I said, stop. It is. And the audience clapped like Derek is laughing right now. He literally did that, y'all. He literally said that. And I had to stop him. Because, see, what he was doing was mentally and psychologically saying that what I'm doing is actually less than. I had to stop him. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not less than. Quality is quality. Content is what matters. And so every single one of us should be celebrating Tyler Perry Studios. If you ever bought a ticket to a Tyler Perry play or movie or soundtrack or a t-shirt or a mug, you made Tyler Perry's studio possible. That is black excellence. It is the largest in history black-owned major studio. But I would be remiss if I did not mention that Tim Reed and Daphne Maxwell Reed opened their own studio in Virginia more than 20 years ago. That's right. This is not the first black studio. AFSCME Show had his own studios as well. So learn your history. But in terms of major studio this size, nobody black has ever done it. That's because of faith in your God, faith in yourself, and faith in black people. That's how it happened. So with that, congratulations, Tyler Perry. I got a chance to briefly speak to him yesterday, and he said, got a bunch of people I got to speak to. He said, but I'm sure you're going to put these thoughts into a text and sent it to me. I said, no, I said, I'm gonna send it to you, but I chose to do this here because, folks, walking on those grounds, knowing full well that that used to be the grounds of a Confederate base that a black man now owns, yeah, that's called black power. It's called black excellence. And not a single person who was there, more than 1,000 folks, walked away, not blown away, and now thinking about how can I take my thing to the next level. But it requires you to, again, faith in your God, faith in yourself, and faith in your people. So for all the people out there who keep asking me, why am I doing this show? What are you doing next? Is to create something that's for our people, that's by our people. But we don't have to ask permission. I don't have to ask anybody, can I go cover a story? I ask myself. Tyler doesn't have to go ask anybody what kind of show to make because he can actually make it himself. So that should empower each one of you. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, y'all, that's my alpha brother, Gerald Bryant, one of the many performers at the second annual Luxe Jazz Experience taking place in Cabo, Mexico, November 7th through the 11th. The folks at GFNTV.com, they're going to actually be live streaming all of the concerts covering those 3 days. You can get a streaming pass, of course, for $10.99. Let me, again, go over who's going to be 14 different acts performing. Gerald Albright, Pieces of a Dream, Alex Bouillon, Roy Ayers, Kirk Whalum, Donnie McClurkin, Shalea, folks, a number of people who are going to be performing, a number of R&B, jazz, and gospel artists, again, taking place 7th through the 11th. That's the Luxe Jazz Experience. The live stream is going to be November 8th through Sunday, November 10th. If you want to actually sign up, go to GFNTV.com, GFNTV.com, to sign up for the live stream. If you actually want to go with us to Cabo, go to LifeLuxeJazz.com, LifeLuxeJazz.com, LifeLuxeJazz.com. Package is still available. But if you can't afford that, you can definitely, of course, get the live stream for $10.99, covering you for 3 days. It's going to be an amazing time. I'll be broadcasting Roland Martin Unfiltered there Thursday and Friday. So we're looking forward to you, if you do go, being part of that experience. And, of course, you'll be able to see the show right here as well. And so, again, be sure to get the live streaming pass for $10.99. Go to GFNTV.com. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Oh man, how hard is it to be black? A black man in Portland, Oregon. Remember, he was accosted in a hotel where he was on the cell phone talking to his mother. And a security guard came up to him and said, "What are you doing here?" Demanded proof that he was actually staying in the hotel. Demanded to see his room key, and he continued to press him. Well, Jermaine Massey is now suing the Hilton Doubletree in Portland for $10 million. What eventually happened was that the security guards told Massey he was loitering and that he was a risk to the safety and security of the other guests. Eventually, the hotel manager called Portland police, who then escorted Massey out of the hotel. Massey was not arrested, and the police officer who responded to the incident offered to drive him to another hotel. We'll keep you updated on this suit. Amisha, what it just goes to show you, and this is a thing that white Americans don't understand. In fact, I had a black conservative who was upset with me because of our crazy-ass white people segment. He was like, what if somebody else had a segment called Crazy-Ass Black People? You don't see black people doing the kind of stuff where calling the cops on somebody black who's barbecuing, or saying your car was 1 inch in the crossway, or selling lemonade and then calling the cops. You don't see that happening. And here's a case where, again, brothers in the lobby talking to his mom on the cell phone, staying at the hotel, but they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're loitering." This is called being black in America.
Absolutely. And anyone who doesn't see it or understand it is someone who refuses to see it or understand it. At this point, you know, we're at a point in our nation's history where these types of stories keep ticking up. Not that they haven't always happened, but they're getting, or at least in black media circles, the actual coverage that they deserve. In this case, one of the things that struck me the most is that there are meetings that happen in hotels across this country every single day by people who do not actually have a key card or are not actually people who are staying at that hotel. They are as frequented by people who are just there to hang out or to meet somebody else as a Starbucks is, with people not actually purchasing or doing anything other than having conversation. And those folks rarely, if ever, again, unless they're a black man, have someone who steps up and asks them any questions whatsoever. So I think that this also goes to the fact that we know that there are people who hang out in hotels and have those conversations, and if there is a loitering rule, then that loitering rule should apply equally to everyone. But there is absolutely no reason why you should confront someone who is literally on his cell phone, not bothering anybody, and basically be forceful towards them and elicit the type of behavior that we saw this individual doing. I think that this goes to show, one, how, again, people in authority, literally white people in authority, often view black bodies, specifically black men. But in addition to that, there's absolutely nothing. If I'm at a hotel and you demand that I show you some proof of my stay at that hotel, the odds of it happening are very low. But I don't think that even in that type of situation, as a woman, and I think that this is one of the dissections that we have to make as well. As a woman, I'm not going to get treated the same way that that black man did in that instance. And I think that we need to, you know, continue to elevate these stories, but also have an understanding and push these hotel corporations and these other industries that exist to not only identify by those anti-bias trainings, but also to have a strong understanding of the things that they do every day, these micro biases that exist, where it tells you inwardly that this person is some type of a threat, or that they may be disruptive, or that they may cause issues for other people who are in that area. This man was on the cell phone talking to his mom. He wasn't doing anything inappropriate at all. There was nothing about him that was menacing. There was nothing about him that would have showcased any level of fear to anyone in that area, other than the fact that a white individual assumed because he was a black man that that was cause for fear and cause for action.
Let me go to Greg on this one. Greg, again, you're in a hotel. You're staying there. And to demand that, you know, you show your proof and then to accuse him of loitering, I mean, how hard is it to simply say, when you finish your phone call, then I'll speak to you? That's all you got to do.
Well, I think, that would be the second thing you would have to do. The first thing you would have to do is see another human being. And that's simply not going to be the case in a racialized society. This is about policing black bodies, plain and simple. As someone who, you know, like you, was born and raised in the American South, you know, I can think of what my father used to say sometimes, like, son, sometimes you got to go through life as if you got one bullet in your gun. The question is tonight the night you're going to use it? There have been many times when I've been approached and asked for identification, and I just produced it. Why? Because it was easier to get this person out of my face than it would be to say, no, I don't have to show you anything. But of course you don't have to show anybody anything if you're living in a society where your life may not be at risk. But this is a question where you make a judgment call. And in that moment, you never know the circumstances. And this is a message for white people, the many white viewers and those who might tune into this. Y'all gonna get the right one day. And a man gonna be talking to his mother on the phone, and she's gonna tell him about something that's very personal and may make him very emotional, and you're gonna walk up to them and say, excuse me, can I see your ID? And you're gonna catch something you didn't intend to catch. So here's a message to white people. Either you start treating us like human beings, or you might find out that you're gonna get a surprise. It's lucky that this hotel may just get off with a few $1 million, because that could have ended very differently depending on how any of us, woman or man, is approached at a moment when somebody tries to decide that they're gonna impose their humanity on us as if we're something less than human.
Avis, again, I think, look, we have seen more and more of this, and I'm telling you, white folks have been emboldened in this country since Donald Trump is president to literally challenge the mere presence of black people. We had the story in Maryland, of course, where these sisters were by the pool, and this guy pretty much just chased them off of the property. And then, of course, the lemonade, the barbecue. We talk about, story after story, and people don't understand when black people get sick and tired of this, and black people go off. We're like, why are y'all upset? Because mere blackness is what is being questioned.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's so, you know, as Dr. Carr was saying, our humanity is being ignored. It's being undermined. It is, and it's being done by individuals who are using authority, quote unquote, perceived, or what they believe is their real authority, right? Perceived authority, as a tool of oppression against us. So it's either their personal authority in the form of a security guard in this particular instance, or trying to insert the authority of the police by picking up your cell phone and calling the police for a ridiculous reason. And so we've always in this country had this situation where white people use authority as tools of oppression against African Americans. I think this is very interesting because it sort of parlays into a meeting that I was in a couple of weeks ago at Facebook's headquarters around, the reality that black people, for example, are more likely to be put in Facebook jail than white people. And one of the things that was brought up in that meeting in terms of one of their explanations for this was that white people just tend to report more than black people. And they will report all sorts of ridiculous things, but according to them, a lot of the people who interpret what's being reported are people from around the world. So they don't even understand our cultural context here in America to really make oftentimes good decisions about whether or not what was reported was actually something that deserved attention. I say all that to say that it's just another example of how white people are more prone to use authority in order to oppress black people, either in real life or even in the virtual space in terms of what we see in social media.
Folks, one of the ways for Americans to actually build wealth in this country is through home ownership. And the black home ownership rate stands today, folks, at 40.6%. That is the lowest number in more than 50 years. In comparison, the home ownership rate for non-Hispanic whites reported by the U.S. Census Bureau is 73.1%. That represents more than a 30 percentage point difference and reflects the economic mountain African Americans have to climb to gain parity in achieving the American dream. We're joined now by the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, newly elected president, Donnell Williams, to discuss this disparity. And Donnell, glad to have you on the show. First and foremost, let's just be real. The housing crisis that took place since 2007 caused black folks to lose 53% of all black wealth. And when you look at what took place, forcing African Americans into subprime loans, the foreclosures, of course, and folks having to go from owning to renting, that is the biggest contributor in terms of why we are where we are today. And the reality is, and look, I don't care what anybody says out there, I was critical when it actually happened. The Obama administration did not do enough to deal with this issue of the home ownership crisis. I was covering it every step of the way. In fact, I've covered housing my entire career, going back to when I was in Austin, at the Austin American-Statesman, in Fort Worth, as a City Hall reporter, at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, and other places as well. And now you have the Trump administration, and same thing, having no real substantive plan to deal with the housing crisis in this country, especially as it relates to African Americans.
I agree with you, Roland. I remember back in 2012 when I first met you, and we had this discussion then. But you're absolutely correct. I declared a cease and desist on the declining rates of black home ownership. Right now, we're at 40.6%, which is unheard of. It is hurting our generational wealth. It's hurting our economic growth. We're in trouble. And that's why I declared a war on the declining rates of black home ownership. We need to pull out all stops. We need to create allies. We need to create partnerships. We need to address this issue immediately. There is no time to wait on the sidelines. Everybody's got to be in this fight for black home ownership.
And so what can be done? What should be done? What should Fannie Mae and Freddie Mae, what should they be doing?
Well, we're at a point right now at the association, which is the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, where we have come up with solutions to actually help the declining rate. Right now, there are 1.7 million black millennials, low-hanging fruit, that make over $100,000 a year that do not own a home. We're looking at educating them, giving them the tools, the resources, helping them to empower themselves and mobilize so that we have a new growth spurt of homeowners coming up. We started a campaign under our 2,000,005 new black homeowners in 5 years campaign called HouseThenTheCar.com. housethenthecar.com. That's where we're pushing our people. We're trying to get them ready, get them to understand DTI, get them to understand creating a budget, get them to understand credit, down payment assistance, and what have you, so that maybe we begin that turn, because you're in violation if you have a landlord and a Land Rover.
All right, I know our panel has some questions for you. Who's first up?
I'll go. I think this is a really interesting issue. As a homeowner who became a homeowner late in my life, right, in my 30s, I found the process really overwhelming. But one of the things I've been thinking about now that I'm no longer a first-time buyer, what exists for that buyer in the middle who's not a first-time buyer, who maybe is a move-up buyer, right, whose family is expanding or whose needs have changed? How do you help those folks retain ownership of what they may currently have, and then also purchase something else that may suit their life at that point in their life?
Well, we have an entire series to help people in that category, because interesting enough, the average age of a black homeowner is 48 years old. Home purchasers, 48 years old. We all on this panel understand that that's a little too late. We need to start earlier. But we have a series of classes to educate people on how they bequeath, how they transfer that wealth once they own it. We don't want to lose the wealth, because the average age of folks born before 1965, half of the black people owned their home before they were 50 years old. Now that number has totally reversed. Now we don't own our homes. So we're trying to show that entire generation, the baby boomers, if you call them, the baby boomers, how to transfer that wealth and how to do it smartly.
The people that I talk to in the community often don't know what the specific benefits are of home ownership, because if they have an apartment or they have a place to live and they got the Range Rover, they figure they're hooked up. I think it might be a good idea to specifically break down what the benefits are of home ownership. And I also want to know specifically what you meant, because I think other people want to know the same thing, is what does it mean that we're in trouble? So that's two questions. What are the elements of that in troubleness, and what are the benefits of home ownership?
Okay. Benefits of home ownership: generational wealth, security, financial security. Owning a home is the keystone of financial wealth. That's the first step for most of America. They came up with the American dream. This is the American dream, is owning a home. They've been giving away land since the beginning, since we got here. So what I'm saying is that the keystone is owning that property. So owning that property then creates the opportunity to build, to get a job, get a business loan, to actually put your kids to college. All of those things, generational wealth, all those things fall into owning that first home, creating that equity.
So allow me to also jump in here. One second. Allow me to jump in here because I think to also provide some context to that answer to the question Cleo just asked. When you talk about what is the benefits, in 2014, when the Wall Street Journal did their article on the fact that $23.09 billion in small business loans were handed out in 2013, black folks only got $385 million of those loans. One of the primary reasons was because of the loss of home ownership. For African Americans, when it comes to, if you're starting a business and you're looking to go get capital, you're looking to get a loan, your most important collateral is likely going to be your home, the equity in your home. If you are renting, you don't have any equity. Here's the second thing. When you talk about security, when my parents retired more than 10 years ago, they were living in an apartment in Houston, and they were looking at fixed income, and they said, we're going to get a smaller apartment. I'm going, it's going to be smaller than this. Well, I still own my home in the Dallas area. I said, my house paid for. Y'all can live there. So they were able to move. So I have parents and a sister and her daughter, both living in a home that's paid for. Now that actually assists them in terms of the ability to be able to live and not actually have to spend that amount of money. Third thing, which is also critically important, when you talk about home ownership, I bought that home in 1999, and it was around $122,000. Of course, we had the housing crisis where it dropped. Now that house is appraised at around $190,000. I've been having folks sending me text messages and calling me for the past 6 months trying to actually buy the home. Why? Because the housing stock in the country, you don't have as much as you did before. And so here it is. I could, if I wanted to, could sell that home right now for $190,000 or $200,000, and then be able to invest that money. And so if you're renting, you can't do that. You're just shelling out money to somebody else. And so for the people who are out there, that's what you're talking about. And in fact, the other problem is when you talk about renting, because of the lack of housing in this country, one of the things that happened, Janelle, you know this, what happened was when those banks, the so-called toxic assets, those were those home loans. And what they did was they got the federal government to give them that $12 billion bailout. They took that money and didn't focus on toxic loans. They basically built up their bottom lines. Right. Then they went, wait a minute, we're in good shape. We're not going to get rid of those homes. So what do? They then turned around, sold those homes, blocks of 25 and 30,000 homes to hedge funds in Arizona, out California, in Texas. And now, Dr. Carter made her point, if you wanted to buy a home, you looking to go buy a home, you can't compete against the hedge fund, so they're forcing people to be renters, and people are actually spending more money right now in many places renting an apartment or renting a home than what the mortgage would actually cost them. And that, Danelle, is the problem that we're seeing in terms of why this is a huge issue. And so shelling out money renting doesn't get you anything when you're 25 and 30 and 35 and 40. And so guess what? When you get to be 50 like I am, you're not going to have any asset whatsoever. And then if I choose to retire, let's say in 20 years from now, go back to that same home, all I got to do is pay my property taxes. That's it, not a mortgage.
Correct. The funny thing about it is they want to push us towards renting, but the rental price is going up just as much as the home ownership, the mortgage amount that you would pay. So we're in betwixt and between, but we have to get into the mindset. At the Congressional Black Caucus, we did put on a national conversation on black home ownership. That needs to be done in every local city that we have a chapter in. The national conversation on black home ownership. It's time for us to change the conversation, and we have to get people on board with this, because the security comes. I have a saying: the one who owns the land makes the laws. So we have to change that.
Yep, absolutely. Kelly, you have a question?
I do. I definitely understand the predicament that we're in terms of home ownership, but as someone who would be a first-time home buyer, a large problem is the gentrification and the influx of prices, especially in the DMV area. So how do you reconcile that with, like, for instance, in my situation, I'm a recent grad, loads of debt, trying to stay afloat. I'm living in D.C. The housing market here is absolutely crazy in terms of prices. So what do you do, or how do you reconcile the predicament of gentrification, the influx of prices, and the lack of affordable housing with the fact that we need to own homes?
Well, I'll tell you, you're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to use the tools that are out there. There are tools out there now. HUD tried to stop some of them with down payment assistance. We're proponents. We believe in the down payment assistance. If you're patient enough, then something may come up if you're working with a realtist, and they can help you find. And Realtist is a member of my organization, the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, held to a high standard of ethics. So that may help you with gentrification. That may help you find a place where you want to be in the town, in the area, in the zip codes you want to be at, closer to jobs, closer to schools, closer to hospitals and doctors and medical and things like that. But it could be a hard fit. I'm finding that we're having a hard fit. People can't live in the same area they grew up in anymore.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have to be patient. You have to save. You have to, and when it's time to strike, you got to move.
Roland, I have a suggestion that I also have.
All right, folks. Real quick, Leo. Real quick.
You can also consider. This takes patience. Buying property outside of the area, in a nice area outside the area that costs lower, just to establish home ownership, and establish that loan, if you will, or however you're going to secure it, so you can have that in your portfolio, and then you build an equity. And you also can buy a property. I only buy properties that somebody's going to rent if I move out because it's in a nice area that they're going to like. So buy a property that you know is going to be temporary for you, but that's in a rentable area that's outside of DC, that's more cost effective, and plan to use that property, particularly when you get the equity and the kind of situation financially you want to be in, to get a property later in Washington, D.C. But at least you own property now.
Got it.
And you got that.
Danelle, 30 seconds. Danelle, 30 seconds, go.
We need you to get on board with HousedInTheCar.com. It's a campaign, it's a movement. We have MOUs with everyone from fraternities, sororities, faith-based institutions. The civic engagement piece with the National Association of Real Estate Brokers is going to be huge. We need you to identify with it. We need you to get on board, and black home ownership matters.
All right, folks, Joshua Brown, of course, the man who testified in the Bolton case for Amber Guy, of course, was sent to prison, shot and killed on Friday. Today, Dallas police announced that 3 men are wanted in his death. A news conference took place today in Dallas, where they revealed the details of that particular case. This is the video from that news conference earlier today.
Police Department, I'm over the Criminal Investigation Unit. So first, let me thank you for coming out on such short notice. I appreciate it. City of Dallas appreciates it, as well as the Dallas Police Department. As you know, Joshua Brown was shot and killed October the 4th of 2019. He was shot and killed at 4606 Cedar Springs in Dallas, Texas, which is why we gathered here today. First, I would like to acknowledge Joshua's family. We in the Dallas Police Department grieve with you. We understand how hard it is and how much pain is related to losing a loved one. No family member should have to suffer that kind of pain. I want you to know that the Dallas Police Department is working diligently on your behalf to solve this case. It's our policy that we pursue all murder suspects. We pursue them aggressively, we pursue them thoroughly, with the hope of bringing closure to the family. As you know, I've said it before, that we value human life. We understand that there are some in the community that do not, but the Dallas Police Department does value human life. Through the dedicated work of my detectives, we have identified 3 suspects in the Joshua Brown murder. Jacarius Mitchell, black male, 20 years of age. Michael Mitchell, black male, 32 years of age. Thaddeus Green, black male, 22 years of age. According to suspect Jacarius Mitchell, all 3 suspects came from Alexandria, Louisiana, to purchase drugs from Joshua Brown. Thaddeus Green was the facilitator. He's the one that contacted Joshua Brown. As they drove to the offense location, Thaddeus Green gets out of the vehicle, has a conversation with Joshua Brown, which escalates into physical altercations, at which time Jacarius Mitchell gets out of the vehicle and he states that Joshua Brown orders him back into the vehicle and shoots him in the chest. As he's laying in the vehicle, he hears 2 more gunshots. He says that Thaddeus Green shot Joshua Brown 2 times. According to the autopsy report, Joshua Brown was shot 2 times in his lower body. One was a through and through, and the other entered his body just below the spine, traveled upward, damaging vital organs. Thaddeus Green also took the backpack that Joshua Brown had, as well as the gun that Joshua Brown had. Michael Mitchell was the driver. He dropped Thaddeus Green off at an unknown location, and he took Jacarius Mitchell to Promise Hospital to receive treatment. He was later transported to Parkland Hospital, where he is currently in police custody. We will execute a warrant for capital murder on him today. We also received numerous tips as it related to the killing of Mr. Brown, and in that we executed a search warrant at Mr. Brown's apartment where we confiscated 12 pounds of marijuana, 143 grams of THC cartridges, and $4,000 in cash. We have also issued capital murder warrants for the other two suspects, Michael Mitchell and Thaddeus Green. I want to assure the citizens of Dallas that we will continue to be transparent and we will provide updates as they materialize concerning this case. We as the police department need your help in capturing the two fugitives that are not in custody. We've partnered with our federal partners and we're in pursuit of them as I speak. If you know the whereabouts of these two suspects, please contact your local police department or the Dallas Police Department at 214-373-8477 or 214-671-3690. These suspects are to be considered dangerous because they're armed. Again, I want to thank you for coming out under such short notice. I thank you for trusting us to provide you with true and accurate information. I thank you, our community members, for partnering with us and believing in us as we pursue these fugitives. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank my detectives. I've said it.
Come on. Slight issue there. Let's go right our panel right here. Dr. Jason Nichols, Department of African American Studies, University of Maryland. Also, Kelly Bethea, Communications Strategist, and Melik Abdul, Republican Strategist. The mayor over the weekend, Jason, tweeted out to folks not to engage in wild speculation. Folks were on social media saying this was a plot. He was targeted. They went after him. And even now, even though they've come out and made this announcement, here people say, oh no, they planted these drugs. They said that to come out and say they found marijuana in this guy's apartment. But also that was a shooting that took place in November involving Joshua Brown. It took place outside of a strip club as well. And he said that he feared they were going to come back and harm him. What do you make of, again, people immediately saying, oh no, the cops, they're the ones who actually were behind the murder of Joshua Brown?
You know, I think it shows the lack of trust that many of our community have for law enforcement, and that's a reputation that law enforcement has earned. And I think Amber Geiger did law enforcement no favors with her actions to make people think that they can't trust law enforcement, that they can't believe in law enforcement. As far as what occurred, right now it looks like this was the case. I mean, he was selling marijuana, but marijuana, again, will be legal within a couple of years. We have people who are marijuana barons all over the country. This says nothing about his character. He had guns, he carried guns. As you guys, as Southerners know, many people in the South have guns. That doesn't make, say anything negative about his character. The thing that did stand out to me about that press conference was the fact that they felt the need, even with the picture behind them, to say that these were black males. We saw that clearly on the screen, that the suspects were black males, but for some reason they had to, emphasize the fact that the suspects were black males. I didn't really understand what the need for that was, other than really to take a shot at people who were, maybe had some different ideas about what happened to Joshua Brown.
Kelly.
I don't believe this story. I'll just say it flat out.
Why?
Just by way of how the trial went, I don't recall the defense once cross-examining Joshua Brown regarding his character and potential criminal activity, potential possession or anything? Because in cross-examination, your job is to discredit that witness as much as you can, and during that time.
But if you did not know any of this,
they weren't investigating him.
You can't say the potential. I mean, if he had been convicted of drug dealing,
sure,
that's the difference.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is you're telling me that an entire defense team who's defending a cop didn't have the resources at their disposal to find out everything they could about their star witness in a high-profile murder trial? Like,
no, I'm saying, but if you did not know,
what I'm saying is, I don't think there was anything to not know. This doesn't make any sense to me. Driving a total of 10 hours for a weed re-up, that doesn't make any sense to me. Having 3 people.
I mean, it's happened.
It happened,
it's not.
Louisiana has Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Shreveport. You're telling me you can't find any type of marijuana within state lines? You had to cross to Texas to find good weed for Louisiana customers? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well,
I think to the first question that you asked, Jason, I think this was another case of confirmation bias. People wanted to believe it, and I would go further. Yes, police is a part of it, but I also think it's race. It's easy to believe that a black man who testified in a case against a white cop, that the thing that happened to him happened because he was black or that he testified or whatever, so that part didn't surprise me. I was pushing back on the notion that, and to me, it actually didn't make sense that he would be killed after he gave testimony,
that too,
not before he gave testimony. If the conspiracy was true, that there was something that was, in the police department or whatever, to the point about, and I'm no marijuana aficionado, but 12 pounds is a lot of weed. It's a lot of weed. So I can definitely see people driving hours and hours and hours away outside of their state to get 12 pounds.
Well, I don't know that they were buying 12 pounds.
Right. Well, what they said.
And that's risky. If you already know that Louisiana
people actually drive across state lines to get weight. And so.
And coke? Heroin, man.
First, you had a guy who played for the San Diego Chargers, of course, who got busted for funding where they were transmitting cough syrup from California to Texas. So the idea that people don't drive for drugs is just not true.
I'm not saying they don't drive for drugs.
But he was a supplier. I mean, if he had 12 pounds of marijuana, he was a supplier. He wasn't the person who was actually on the corner
and that's another
selling
point
the marijuana.
I'm making. Like, if he's a supplier and the defense didn't know that at trial,
but why would they?
Make any
but
sense.
I'm not
How
sure.
do you not cross that?
But I don't know if there was no indication that he was involved in the criminal activity. Then what basis would they have?
If you're able to get 12 pounds
let me just say one thing about the drugs. Number one, there's an old saying that I've heard from people who are involved in that business, and that is you don't poop where you eat.
Right.
So in many cases, people try to go, in distance, and who knows if they weren't intending to rob him.
Because Alexandria,
they thought
Louisiana,
he was alone
to Dallas.
with 12 pounds of weed.
Yeah.
Here's what we know. What we know is, based upon people getting information, tips coming in, one of the guys who was involved in this, allegedly, was one of the people who got shot.
Yeah.
He was kind of a little pissed off by that.
In the chest, I think.
He's the one who's in the hospital who told the cops what the hell happened.
Yeah.
And so the other two have not, they're still trying to arrest them right now. We'll certainly hear more about this, and we'll have those details. And so, again, 2 individuals Dallas police are looking for. They have charged them with murder, and they're waiting to arrest them and look for them as we speak. And so we'll give you those details as they come up. Let's talk about the 2016 campaign. Donald Trump has continued to say that the Russians had nothing to do with his win. It was all him. He also swears, of course, that he got more votes than Hillary Clinton, which we know that he's a lying ass. Now, Russian operatives associated with the St. Petersburg-based internet research agency used social media to conduct an information warfare campaign designed to spread disinformation in the United States. The Senate Intelligence Committee found that no single group of Americans was targeted more than African Americans. Race and related issues were the preferred target of the information warfare campaign designed to divide the country in 2016. Really? They laid that out? Well, my next guest, Shireen Mitchell, the social analyst and diversity strategist, her research last year showed that. And so, Shireen, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered. So, so essentially, the Senate goes, hey, Shireen, you're right.
Exactly. So the challenge is that what happened was what we did was we took the House intelligence release of the 3,500 Russian ads. We dumped it into a database, and then we decided to look at who the targets were based on what the topics were. That was the House Intelligence Committee did it in May, and we did our report before the 2018 elections. And in that instance, we basically said that the ultimate target was to focus on Black identity, to suppress the vote, and to rile up those who had racial tensions against Black people. And if you look at the web of our data, you can actually see that Black identity was connected to everything that was listed, which is like Second Amendment, Islam. We can go down to like connections to Tucker Carlson. Like everything was literally connected in our web, with the center and the intensity being Black identity. Outside the web was other groups, which is why this part is really important, because now the Senate Intelligence Committee is basically saying, yes, we now know that not only race was targeted, but African Americans were targeted. So outside our spectrum of the web is Latino and Chicano issues. Outside our web is Native American, indigenous issues. And then there's like this really weird, funky, outside part that's like focused on like memes for white boys in college. But the intensity of the data shows how fierce and how targeted they were on not only using Black identity to suppress the vote, but using Black identity to rile up other groups.
And what you had is you had these Russian trolls who were encouraging Black folks not to vote.
Yes.
You had individuals who were saying Hillary is the exact same as Donald Trump.
Yes.
Don't waste your time. We can go on and on and on. And what happened? There was a 2.4% decrease in Black turnout. And you really had them targeting 18 to 39-year-olds by saying that she was the same as Trump, same policies. They were really amplifying the whole
super
predators comment. All of those different things. They also discovered that one of the biggest Black Lives Matter Facebook pages was actually a Russian front.
Yes. Like there was so many. So the thing is, the way that we came to this information was that we were tracking how often we were seeing these fake accounts pretending to be Black women, and for us who know how this works, Black women are like the key to the Black vote. And so the fact that they were pretending to be Black women was on top of the issue. But this part about using the super predator key piece is really important, because there was no conversation about Trump and the way that he treated the exonerated five, right? But we have her being repeated all over the place saying super predator. We have issues where we're looking at the crime bill, but we're not talking about where some of that started. So using her as this prop up on this particular issue about crime was also key to kind of suppressing some of the vote. Let's just be clear, though. I don't want to turn this into it was us that made this happen, because you have to understand that overwhelmingly white Americans voted for this guy. Like, some people may not have shown up to vote. Some people may have not been able to get to vote because of information that was being also disseminated falsely by the Russian IRA account. So they were basically telling people, oh, don't stay in line, just text your vote. That's voter suppression. So so there was a combination of activities that were going on that includes the stuff that was happening on the ground and what we now know as digital voter suppression.
Questions, anybody?
So, considering the states that Hillary actually lost, is there data showing that the black vote was affected in those states? Like, is that Michigan, Wisconsin? Like, is there data, the actual data that's showing that in these states, the number of the percentage of black voters were fewer than whatever they should have been? What does that data actually look like?
Yeah, there's 2 data points. The first one I want to talk about is the Brennan Center just put out their report that shows that between 2016 and present, there were over 17 million voters who were suppressed, and they show the states. The states purged, I'm sorry, not suppressed, but actually purged. Wisconsin is like the reddest state of suppression. In other words, the way in which they were purging was up to 18%. The other part that I always love when people ask this question, because they always bring up Michigan. So the troll farm framework about them both being the same in Michigan is where you see that happen, i.e., 90,000 people made it to the polls and decided not to vote top of the ticket. They voted completely down ballot, but left the top voided.
Which is rare as hell.
Rare on.
I mean, most people, most it's the highest at the top of the ticket, and then it just drops as you go down.
No. So in this case, we have the evidence. 90K literally left out top of the ticket and voted all the way down. And also, let's be clear, he won by 77K. So just imagine if that wasn't being pushed out there as a narrative.
No. So did the bots were the Russian bots responsible for people not voting top of the ticket?
No, so there's a conversation about psych ops versus what people actually do. So if they believe that they were both the same, they would not vote top of the ticket. So if the message is sent out multiple times, which is disinformation, that these are the same people, i.e., by the way, super predator, but not exonerated 5, it somehow seems to miss people's thought process. I'm
sorry. Oh, so do we know what areas in Michigan? And I know I'm getting really specific, but if we're talking about 90K votes and we're going to assume, say, 80,000 of them were for Hillary, do we know what areas, like was it in Detroit? You know, were those votes cast in Dearborn, areas that you would expect that she would win, or were they all over? Are we talking about just the entire state of
right
Michigan?
Right now, we're talking about the entire state of Michigan. So now I can make a comparison because the new data came out from the Brennan Center about which states that actually didn't vote top of the ticket in comparison to, by the way, those who were purged. Because the part that people still don't understand is, like, it's not just about people who are disenfranchised in a way that they don't think they should go out and vote, or being told wrong places to vote, polling places, text your vote, or all these other messages that they may believe that was being sent, by the way. And some of this messaging is still being repeated by, just FYI, some of this messaging is literally happening right now. But what's different is now we can now start to look at an overlay between what we now know as the states that were being purged and the overlay of the disinformation campaigns.
So so 2 parts. There has been talk about the potential breaking up of Facebook because of this. One, how do you feel about that? And just in general, what are next steps in terms of preventing this for 2020?
So
there
should be next steps, but like as of today, what the Senate Intelligence Committee just reported out, we're 3 years late.
Right.
Trying to figure out, oh, this happened.
And that's thank you to the Republican Party and Senator Mitch McConnell. That's why. Senator Mitch McConnell has refused, and Trump has refused to do anything when it comes to protecting our elections. They have made excuses, and McConnell's not only very late to the game by saying, oh, I'll go ahead and allow the bill to go forward, which the House overwhelmingly passed.
Yes.
Republicans voted for it to properly protect our elections, but Republicans in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump, haven't done a damn thing. So the onus is on them. That's just fact.
Fact. However, we still have to do something. Like, something has to happen. Like,
right.
If just acknowledging it, of course, is not enough. Like, we're at the stage where I think more and more people, which, from my perspective, when my report first came out, nobody wanted to believe it even existed. Mm-hmm. Now we're at 3 years later saying, okay, this thing happened, and now we actually know who was specifically targeted. Now it's 3 years later, and of course the game has changed. Like they have morphed and figured out new ways to come at us.
Man, we not know they access election centers.
Yes.
I mean, so we know that.
Yes.
And what we don't know is if they install a malware that's sitting there and it will wait to spring up come October and November.
Yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention very quickly about just the whole disinformation part that you mentioned about super predators. Well, like for me, and these weren't Russian bots, but super predators was a real conversation that people were having in the black community.
That's not the point. That's not the point. If you looked at...
Don't dismiss it.
No, I'm not dismissing it. But what I'm saying is, if you look, the point is when she talked about cyber ops, when you look at the documentary The Great Hack, and when you look at how information is being fed, and how you're being deluged with the information, and the whole point is, how can I impact someone psychologically that then changes their perception when it comes to voting? Right. That documentary, The Great Hack, just laid it out, how Cambridge Analytica understood it, how they used it in other countries, and how they were very clear on how they were targeting white rural voters, and and how specific they were with certain phrases and how it was used. So the point was not that that wasn't an issue. The point that Shireen is saying is, how is it that you had this super elevated conversation with Hillary Clinton and super predators,
and nothing,
but you had way down here Donald Trump saying, taking the full page ad out, and they should give the death penalty. So if there's
not full page ad, just to like a full page ad to lynch these innocent boys in Central Park, that was not repeated, and I don't understand how we can have this conversation without.
No. What she's saying is, if you have like this much conversation here, and this little amount of conversation, what is actually driving this much conversation?
Right. So
when really what it should have been is sort of like, if there was a lot of conversation about black people, about super predators.
And if it was a both,
those aren't the same thing to me.
I'm actually going to agree with Malik here in the sense that I heard both, but that actually adds to what Shireen is saying, because it made many African Americans feel like they're the same, that they're not different. That's what drove voter participation down. And so I heard the same conversation about super predators, and I heard a whole lot. Yeah, I heard a whole lot about Central Park 5.
That wasn't. It wasn't. If you look at the data, Shireen, if you look at the data, go ahead.
In the data, the Central Park 5 conversation was not in it.
Right.
But
is this mainstream? Like, is there a difference between black media and like mainstream?
I think you have to
I vote for mainstream.
Hold on one second, Shireen, go ahead.
So just so that we're clear about this, like, yes, our community has debates about this particular issue, but let's just also be clear. Hillary Clinton said super predator. She was the first lady. She did not write the bill. She did not vote for the bill. She did not have anything to do with the bill out of her saying super predator, but none of that was talked about. By the way, the person who wrote the thing is running for office right now. The person who voted for it is running for office right now.
But Hillary Clinton was the only...
Clinton, who is the president who signed off on it was not punished for that, and you're punishing Hillary Clinton?
Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton.
No. One second. Hold on. One second. Because again, I want Shireen to explain this to people because this is the difference. What Shireen is saying, correct me if I'm wrong, what you're saying is if you look at the data, you had so much conversation. And you then ask yourself, and then when you start breaking apart the data, it's what actually is being reported. And so, again, if you take that, you take in the documentary The Great Hack and how certain phrases were used. What she's saying is that, wait a minute, if you had this super high number of mentions of super predator on these social media platforms, in tweets, on Facebook. So if you had super predator here and you had Central Park here,
yes,
that would say, wait, but hold up. How could you have that level of disparity? That's what I think she's saying when it comes to the data.
But I get that part, but I don't compare super predator and Trump's comments about Central Park 5. Because for me, super predators was something that actually fueled what we're now trying to undo in our criminal
justice system. And that full-page ad fueled the potential listing
one full-page ad in a one.
Hold up. We are not going. First of all, we're going to say actual facts. It was not just a single full-page ad.
Okay.
One second. It was a full-page ad. In multiple papers and
interviews
and multiple interviews.
Yep.
But again, I think you're getting caught up in the wrong thing.
No,
Listen. I'm not. First of all, I'm not comparing the law and the ad. What Shireen is laying out that we have. No,
I get it.
No, not the level. What she's laying out is the intensity of a discussion on social media, which now causes you to say, okay, what was fueling it? Because if it was a natural, organic conversation, you would have similar numbers in terms of folks talking about it. What she's saying is, because you would. What you had is
We're talking about an actual law. Super predator was a mythical term that Hillary Clinton used to describe.
If you don't understand data, if you don't understand a clear, concerted communication strategy that drives a conversation, and so what she's saying is if you actually study the data and see where it was coming from, what you had is this
a deluge.
No. You had a rocket ship fueled by jet fuel.
I get it.
That was driving this thing. That was throwing out so much stuff. And you virtually had a small amount over here. So the issue here is who was driving it and why were they driving it? And to her point, it was all designed to purposely turn African Americans against Hillary Clinton. Shireen, is that correct?
That is correct.
Well,
also, please be clear. As I'm sitting here, I have to understand. I grew up in Harlem. I was there in 1989. I will tell you what happened to my community when this whole thing went down. I will never forget it. I will also say that the fact that what I watched happen in comparison to that dude and Hillary Clinton is night and freaking day from my experience living through the rest of that.
Well, from my experience living in the United States of America, who actually heard Hillary Clinton make those comments about black, she made the comments. It was a mythical term that she decided to use, and she was out there advocating. Whether she didn't sign, whether she signed, we're still trying to undo.
No, Melek, you're hung up.
So why are we in a conversation comparing the two?
Here's why. That's why.
You said because your argument is that they should be here and they shouldn't be here. Super predator was much bigger than what Trump said. There was a law that came out of super predators. That was a law.
Okay, first of all,
hold up.
No, you're wrong. Melek, you're wrong.
Yes, it did.
No, it didn't.
So when when she was talking about super predator, what was she referring to?
Stop. Came out of
Shireen, go ahead.
90 conversations. 1989 is when he pushed that whole agenda.
No, I'm talking about super predator.
Excuse me, Shireen, finish.
Let's not do this.
Shireen, finish.
Okay, but let's not do
Don't interrupt then.
Okay,
Don't interrupt.
Let's not do this.
Don't interrupt then. She won't do that.
Okay, well, let's not do this.
If you don't interrupt, she's not holding her hand up.
This is what we do on the show.
No. I am the host of this show. Excuse me. If you don't interrupt, she doesn't have to hold her hand up.
We don't have to do that at all.
But don't hold your hand up.
Go ahead and finish your point.
Hey, Mbelek, I got this. Shireen, finish your point.
1990, there was a whole history of like these Harvard execs or researchers who basically came up with broken windows. This is not super predator, but this is the lead to super predator conversation. And then we got to 1994. By the way, 1989 was Mayor Dinkins. 1994 was Rudy Giuliani. And he is the one that changed the policy to institute what is now in policy called stop and frisk. That's where the law came from, not Hillary Clinton and super predator.
And here's a piece. This conversation has nothing to do with her comment in terms of what was hired. What we're talking about here, with what Shireen's information, her report laid out, and now the Senate Intelligence Committee, is how Russian troll farms took keywords and phrases and used it to purposely drive the anxiety and targeting of black voters, and how they also use Black Lives Matter to drive it towards white voters, and that's how they did it. And the problem is we have a government that refuses to still address this issue. I totally get that. And that's what's up.
I totally get it.
If folks want the report you put together, where can folks go check it out?
Yeah, Stop is called, you can find it at stoponlinevawa.com. So stoponlinevaw.com.
Stoponlinevaw.com.
And I'm actually in the final phase of our second report. So there's more to come.
All right, Shireen Mitchell, we really appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. The second annual Life Luxe Jazz Experience taking place in Cabo, November 7th through the 11th. You're hearing, of course, that's Gerald Albright. It is an upscale destination with luxury accommodations, fine cuisine, top shelf libations, golf, spa, health, and wellness. So if you want to attend, you can go to lifeluxejazz.com to sign up. But those of you who don't want to go, you can still participate by going to gfntv.com. gfntv.com to watch the live stream. Get your live stream pass. It's 14 acts. Over 3 days, you'll be able to watch every single one of those concerts. I'll be broadcasting my show from there Thursday and Friday. But if you can't make it to Cabo, you can still participate by watching the live stream. So sign up at gfntv.com. It's $10.99, gfntv.com. 3 fantastic days of concerts, including, folks, Mark Curry, as I said, Joel Albright, Alex Bouillon, Raul Madon, Incognito, Pieces of a Dream, Kirk Whalum, Average White Band, Donna McClurkin, Shalea, Roy Ayers, Tom Brown, Ronnie Laws, and Ernest Quarles. It's going to be fantastic. Again, get your live streaming pass at gfntv.com. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.
Hey everybody, this is Sherry Shepherd. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, and while he's doing Unfiltered, I'm practicing the wobble. Yes, I am. Because Roland Martin's the one, he will do it backwards, he will do it on the side. He messes everybody up when he gets into the wobble, because he doesn't know how to do it, so he does it backwards. And it just messes me up every single time. So, I'm working on it. I got it. You got Roland Martin.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Mac Wiles, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's up, y'all? It's Ryan Destiny, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What up, Lana Well?
and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play.